Hello, and welcome to Backstage Buzz at the MAC, where you get the inside story on the art scene right from the directors and creators of the shows, along with events hosted at the MAC. I'm Diana Martinez, and we have another great episode planned for today. First, we welcome Bryan Burke to the show, who's the director of Buffalo Theater Ensemble's final production of the 17th season, Improbable Fiction. Next up is Justin Whitty, the director and curator of the Art Gallery at College of DuPage, who returns to Backstage Buzz and gives us updates on what's coming up next. And finally, Tim Myers will join us to highlight a great offering from the College of DuPage that is steps away from the MAC's front door. The Waterleaf Restaurant, which offers student-run dining experience that provide training to the culinary arts and restaurant management students. Let's get started. My first guest is Bryan Burke. He's an adjunct faculty member of the theater department at COD, and he's an active ensemble member of Buffalo Theater. He's the director of the current BTE production of their comedy show Improbable Fiction, and it's running May 4th through June 4th at the MAC. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Thank you.
I'm a little stuttery.
Oh, no, please, you're fine. You're fine.
So tell us about Improbable Fiction. This is a really exciting piece, right?
Yes, we're very excited to be mounting it. We've done some of, Alan Ayckbourn is the playwright, English playwright, very prolific, scores and scores of plays, and this is one of his more recent works. And it is a comedy. The brief synopsis would be that it's the story of a small writers group, amateur writers group in rural England that get together and meet once a month to talk about their individual pursuits as far as writing. They are all of different disciplines as far as what they're interested in writing, and it ranges from simple technical writing, the manuals that you have when you buy a coffee grinder or coffee maker, to science fiction. There's one of the characters, Brevis, writes musicals. There is a woman who writes children's fiction. Another character writes historical romance in the Victorian era, and even a writer who writes crime fiction. So they get together and meet. They are amateurs, they're not professionals, but they do have aspirations to write. And they're really a kind of a support group for one another to try to realize their fictions, if you will. One of the problems, though, is that they are all, to a certain degree, somewhat blocked. They've got great ideas regarding all of their individual disciplines, but for some reason, as many writers do, they struggle to put pen to paper and to get those fictions realized.
So writers who don't really write who want to write. They're writer wannabes.
Yes,
okay.
a little bit to a certain degree. And then basically, in the first act of the play, we get to meet all of these characters and see how they interact with each other, both in a positive way and sometimes in a negative way, but it's all for the comedy of the piece, which is really, really very funny. And then they kind of decide that they're going to adjourn for this particular meeting, not necessarily having realized any forward motion, but all having expressed the fact that they're struggling with the writing. And then, as in so many of Ayckbourn's plays, something fantastic happens. Something very magical occurs towards the end of that first act. And without giving too much away,
because you don't want to tell everybody,
no,
right?
But part of the fun is what happens.
What happens?
Something magical occurs that's not necessarily easily explained, and suddenly, by means that I won't go into to not ruin the surprise, all of the characters' fictions, their writing aspirations, are realized on stage in the second act.
Well, it sounds very fun.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
Is a little bit of sci-fi, like a touch of sci-fi or fantasy or magic?
Yeah, or there's science fiction. There's like Agatha Christie crime fiction, Scotland Yard stuff.
Oh, I love that.
Victorian romance. You know the.
And it's sort of an old English piece, like the period, right? Sort of.
It's more contemporary.
Contemporary,
England.
okay.
Yes, it's supposed to be in the early aughts of this century. But now the fictions that we're speaking of take place across different times, from Victorian period, late 1800s, obviously.
So it's a contemporary comedy.
Yes, it very much is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So tell me, when you decided to do this piece, what was compelling to you about directing something like this?
Well, Many things. First of all, the core, the comedy of it is really, really fun, and it's very smart and clever, very well constructed. You kind of have to really pay attention to what's going on in that first act because there's lots of callbacks in the second act to what has been referred to in the first act. So the structure itself is kind of fascinating and interesting. Without going into too much detail, lots of interesting transformations occur for these characters, both through their characterization of the characters they play and also through fast, quick costume changes, which we've had some experience with BTE having done in the past. Or MVEP, for example, was one that I participated in, so the technical challenge of executing all of that. And then I just think that it's really good for BTE that we're doing this kind of lighter style comedy. It's really a piece that's just meant to really celebrate theater and the theatrical experience, and obviously the audience partaking of that and actually witnessing that is part of the fun of the show itself.
Well, your audience loves the comedies.
They certainly do.
There's no question.
They certainly do.
No question. You know, when people walk away from this, is there a message you want to leave them with?
Well, there's really a few. One, and I don't want to become heavy-handed because it's not necessarily a message piece, but that all of our aspirations in any endeavor are worth pursuing and might be able to be realized in ways that we can't imagine. You simply need to at least believe in yourself and engage in those aspirations and kind of fight through anything that might impede that to realize something that you want to do. And then I think also just the overall sense of a really fun night in the theater where you will be able to say after hopefully, hour and a half, hour 45 minutes that you've really enjoyed yourself, you've laughed, and you've really been able to embrace these characters and their stories.
You know, I had the pleasure of seeing you in Good People, and I've really never seen you in a show before, and when I saw that show, I was like, Bryan, like he was just like the guy you want to hate, right? The jerk that you went to high school with. That you're like, who did you become?
Yes.
But I've seen you do comedy before.
Sure.
And it was interesting to see you play that kind of a role. And it was such a thrill, and I just wanted to share that with our audience who's watching today, that you're also a performer.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
You're going to bring a different texture to this as a director because you can really relate to an actor, which I think is so important when you direct.
Absolutely, and that's my approach to directing. It always has been. That's where my training has been. That's where my the pursuits that I've taken during my career has always been from an actor's point of view, and I'm very much taking, whenever I direct from an actor's point of view. And in this particular play, because there's such a wide variety of different types of characters and it relies so heavily on acting, I think it's really a good piece for me to work on, and I'm looking forward to working with my wonderful cast, which we have in place now. So.
That's a pretty exciting project. You've had a great first season, haven't you?
Yes, we have. Don't Dress for Dinner was wonderful.
Big success.
Lots of fun. Good People was obviously very well received.
Jeff recommended.
Jeff recommended.
Congratulations.
Nice. Yes, we were very proud of that, and I believe that our audience enjoyed it a great deal. I know that the group that we had a great time playing the show and very much appreciated the response that we received from our audience. So,
it was really, really fun.
Yeah, we're off to the regeneration of BTE is going very well at this point.
It really is.
Yeah,
and
really
it's
is.
exciting, I think, for everybody involved.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
we're
we all
having
are.
a good time, and I love having it. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and I wish you the best of luck. I hope this last show gets all the Jeff recommendations and we go out with a bang this season.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Improbable Fiction has performances in the Playhouse Theater Thursday through Saturday at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 3 through June 4th. Tickets to the show can be purchased at the MAC box office, online at themac.org, or by calling 630-942-4000.